It usually starts so quietly that most people don't even notice it, not in the blood, not in the pancreas, but in the very tips of your feet. A man in his early 60s once sat across from me, completely unaware that anything serious was happening inside his body. He didn't come in for diabetes, he didn't come in for blood sugar problems. In fact, he said he felt mostly fine. His energy was a little lower than before, yes, but nothing alarming. No pain, no dramatic symptoms. What brought him in was something he almost ignored. He told me, almost casually, that his feet had started to feel a little different. Not painful, just different, slight tingling sometimes, a strange dryness that didn't go away, and occasionally, he said, it felt like he was walking on something soft, even when the floor was hard. He almost didn't mention it, and that's exactly what makes this so dangerous. Because what most people don't realize is that long before diabetes shows up clearly in blood tests, long before it begins affecting your eyes, your heart, or your energy levels, something very subtle begins to happen deep inside your body. Your blood, carrying slightly higher levels of sugar than it should, starts to change the environment around your smallest blood vessels and nerves, and the smallest, most fragile of these are in your feet. So while everything else still feels normal, your feet may already be trying to tell you something. But here's the part that almost nobody talks about. These early signals don't feel like a disease. They don't feel urgent. They don't force you to stop your day. They whisper instead of shout, and because of that, most people miss them. They moisturize their skin, change their shoes, ignore the tingling, blame age, or assume it's just poor circulation, while inside, a slow process is quietly affecting the nerves, the blood flow, and the tissues that keep your body stable, mobile, and independent. And by the time the signs become obvious, the damage has often been building for years. So the real question becomes, what if your feet are already showing early warning signs and you simply don't recognize them yet? What if the very thing you've been ignoring is actually your body trying to protect you, trying to alert you before something much more serious develops? Because once you understand what's happening beneath the surface, these small changes stop being random and start making perfect sense. And this is especially important if you're over the age of 45, 50, or beyond. Because as we move through midlife and into later years, the body becomes less efficient at regulating blood sugar. The cells don't respond to insulin the way they used to. Blood vessels become more delicate. Nerve endings become more sensitive to damage. And small, repeated elevations in blood sugar, even before a diagnosis of diabetes, begin to affect the body in very specific ways. Now, here's where things become very interesting. Your feet are often the first place where these changes show up, not because something is wrong with your feet themselves, but because they are the furthest point from your heart. One fi stim and rely on very fine networks of blood vessels and nerves to stay healthy. When blood sugar remains slightly elevated over time, it begins to affect circulation. The tiny vessels that deliver oxygen and nutrients start to narrow and stiffen. At the same time, the nerves, which are incredibly sensitive, begin to lose their ability to send clear signals. And this is where the first signs begin. One of the earliest changes people notice is a subtle tingling or pins and needles. Sensation, not constant, not painful, just occasional, easy to dismiss. But what's actually happening is that the nerves are beginning to struggle. They are not receiving the same steady supply of nutrients and oxygen, and their signaling becomes inconsistent. Now, this is the part most people have never heard before. That tingling is not just a surface sensation. It's a sign that communication between your brain and your body is starting to weaken. And if the underlying cause isn't addressed, that signal can slowly fade over time, turning into numbness. Another sign that often goes unnoticed is unusual dryness in the skin of the feet. Many people assume it's just aging skin, but in reality, this can be linked to changes in nerve function. The nerves that help control moisture and sweat production begin to weaken, leading to skin that becomes dry, cracked, and more vulnerable. And here's where a quiet risk begins to develop. When the skin loses its natural moisture and strength, it becomes easier for small cracks or injuries to form. And if circulation is also reduced, healing becomes slower. But what happens next inside the body is even more surprising. Some people begin to notice that their feet feel colder than usual, even in a warm environment. This isn't just a comfort issue. It can be a sign that blood flow is not reaching the extremities as effectively as it should, and since blood carries oxygen, nutrients, and immune support, reduced circulation means the tissues are not being maintained properly. At the same time, others experience the opposite, a burning sensation in the feet, especially at night. And this is where many people unknowingly make a serious mistake. They assume it's just fatigue or pressure from standing or walking. But in reality, this burning sensation can be linked to nerve irritation caused by elevated blood sugar levels, affecting the nerve fibers. Now imagine this happening slowly, over months, or even years, the nerves sending weaker signals, the blood vessels delivering less support, the skin becoming more fragile, and all of this happening quietly, without a clear warning that demands attention. Another sign that is often overlooked is a change in how pressure feels when walking. Some people describe it as feeling like they're walking on cushions or not fully sensing the ground beneath them. This may seem minor, but it can affect balance and stability, and for older adults, this becomes incredibly important because reduced sensation in the feet can increase the risk of falls, and falls can have serious consequences for long-term independence. There are also visible signs that many people don't connect to blood sugar at all. For example, slow healing cuts or small wounds on the feet. A tiny scratch that takes longer than expected to heal may not seem like a big deal, but it can be a signal that circulation and immune response are not functioning at their best. Changes in nail health, such as thickened or brittle toenails, can also be linked to reduced circulation and metabolic changes. And then there's something even more subtle, a change in the color of the skin, slightly darker patches, redness, or areas that look different from the surrounding skin. These changes are often ignored, but they can reflect shifts in blood flow and tissue health. Now, I want you to pause for a moment and think about this. None of these signs, on their own, seem alarming. That's exactly why they're so easy to overlook. But when you start to see them as part of a pattern, they begin to tell a very different story. A story about how your body is adapting, struggling, and trying to signal that something needs attention. And the good news is, this process is not something you're powerless against, because the body has an incredible ability to respond, repair, and rebalance when given the right support. Here's where things shift from concern to opportunity. One of the most powerful steps you can take is becoming more aware of your daily blood sugar patterns. Not just extreme highs, but the small repeated spikes that happen after meals, especially those high in refined carbohydrates and sugars. These repeated spikes are what quietly drive the changes we've been talking about. So even simple adjustments like choosing more whole foods, increasing fiber intake, and balancing meals with protein and healthy fats can help stabilize blood sugar and reduce stress on your system. Movement also plays a critical role. Regular walking, gentle strength exercises, and even simple foot movements can improve circulation, helping deliver oxygen and nutrients more effectively to the tissues. Now, this is something many people overlook. Foot care itself becomes incredibly important, not in a complicated way, but in a consistent, attentive way. Checking your feet regularly, noticing any changes in skin, sensation, or healing can help you catch early signs before they progress. Keeping the skin moisturized, wearing properly fitting shoes, and avoiding prolonged pressure can protect the integrity of the skin and tissues. Hydration also matters more than most people realize. When the body is well hydrated, blood flows more efficiently, and cells function more effectively. And sleep, often underestimated, plays a direct role in how your body regulates blood sugar, repairs tissues, and maintains nerve health. As these small habits begin to align, something remarkable happens. The body starts to regain balance, circulation improves, nerve function stabilizes, skin becomes healthier, energy levels become more consistent. And those subtle signals, the tingling, the dryness, the discomfort, may begin to ease, but more importantly, you're no longer ignoring the messages your body is sending. You're listening, and that alone can change the trajectory of your health. Because the truth is, the body rarely fails without warning. It communicates constantly, quietly, patiently. The question is whether we recognize those signals or dismiss them as something unimportant. Your feet, though often overlooked, may be one of the earliest places where your body reveals what's happening beneath the surface. Not to alarm you, but to guide you, to give you time, to give you a chance to respond before small imbalances become larger challenges. And when you begin to see these signs, not as random issues, but as meaningful information, you move from reacting to problems to understanding your body in a deeper, more powerful way. Because true health, especially as we age, is not just about avoiding disease. It's about awareness. It's about small, consistent decisions that support your body's natural ability to protect, repair, and sustain itself. And when you give your body that support, it often gives you something incredibly valuable in return: strength, clarity, stability, and the ability to move through life with confidence and independence. So if your feet have been trying to tell you something, perhaps now is the time to listen more closely, not with fear, but with understanding. Because sometimes the smallest signals carry the most important messages.